We have engineered a world saturated with data. At any given moment, we can access an infinite stream of facts, metrics, and opinions, yet we frequently find ourselves lacking in foundational wisdom. Thousands of years ago, long before the digital age, a group of ascetics in ancient India recognized this exact human vulnerability. Looking at this surviving Sanskrit manuscript of the Mundaka Upanishad, we find a text explicitly dedicated to solving that problem. It proposes a stark premise. Accumulating endless facts is merely a distraction if we fail to understand the underlying reality of our own existence. The text opens with a framing narrative. A wealthy householder named Shaunaka leaves his comfortable life and ventures into the forest to approach the ascetic sage Angiras. He arrives carrying firewood, a traditional sign of submission in this culture, proving he is ready for profound instruction. Here in verse 3, Shaunaka asks a single driving question. "What is it, my lord, by knowing which a man comes to know this whole world?" Angiras answers by establishing a strict boundary. He explains that there are two distinct types of knowledge to be learned, the lower, known as Apara Vidyā, and the higher, Para Vidyā. Angiras then categorizes astronomy, grammar, phonetics, and even the 4 sacred Vedas as lower knowledge. You can see this explicitly in the Sanskrit of verse 5. The Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva Vedas are grouped together with basic auxiliary sciences as inferior. For a spiritual tradition to declare its own foundational, divine scriptures as an inferior form of knowledge is highly unusual. Why would ancient philosophers demote their most sacred texts? Lower knowledge, in the context of this text, refers specifically to the Karma Kanda, the sections of the Vedas dedicated entirely to rituals, social rules, and external actions. By labeling this as lower, the Upanishad is mounting a direct attack on the prevailing Vedic establishment, which operated on the belief that the universe was sustained through the precise execution of these exact external rites. Looking at this practice, you can see the mechanics they were critiquing. Men gathered around a tiered brick altar, physically pouring oblations into a fire. Angiras does not argue that this lower knowledge is evil or even useless. It is simply mediated information, required to navigate the physical world and maintain social order. Higher knowledge, the Jnanakanda, operates on a different level. It is the unmediated, direct realization of the absolute, undecaying source of reality, known as Brahman. Knowing the mechanical rules of a religion is entirely different from experiencing its truth. One binds you to a routine, the other liberates you. But how do ancient sages explain an invisible reality that exists inside every object? The primary analogy for the universe's creation is a spider drawing a shimmering thread of silk out of its own body to build a web. It conveys a specific philosophical point. The universe was not built out of external parts by a detached engineer. It emanated directly from the very substance of Brahman. The Upanishad layers this with secondary metaphors, describing plants sprouting naturally from the earth and thousands of identical sparks flying out from a central fire. These images shift the perspective away from a distant creator deity. They establish an intimate reality where the creator and the creation are composed of the same material. Higher knowledge, then, is not memorizing facts about the spider or analyzing the temperature of the fire. It is the realization that you yourself are the thread and the spark. This perspective coincided with a shift in ancient Indian practice. Ascetics began abandoning cities and physical altars, choosing to internalize the fire rituals within their own minds. You see the human face of that ascetic renunciation here, in a practitioner covered in ash sitting in meditation. Societal norms are rejected in favor of an internal pursuit. This philosophical shift became known as Vedanta, literally the end of the Vedas, and the Mundaka Upanishad contains one of its earliest recorded uses. This shift is visible right in the structure of the document, which clearly separates the path of rites from the path of knowledge. Further down the text, the aim of this path is stated plainly, learning the way one can perceive Brahman. To perceive Brahman is to understand the central claim of the Upanishads, that Brahman, the absolute reality of the universe, is identical to Atman, the individual self. True liberation requires finding the entire cosmos hidden within the depths of your own consciousness. You can memorize the chemical formula for water and understand the physics of buoyancy, but that information won't save you from drowning. To survive, you have to drop the theory and actually experience the water by learning to swim. As this diagram illustrates, you must leave the wide base of lower knowledge, the books and rituals, and move toward the apex of higher knowledge. The Upanishads present a deliberate paradox. They are texts designed to teach you how to move beyond texts, dissolving the foundation of theory until only the pure experience remains. It is the difference between knowing about a thing and becoming that thing. It is the difference between reading a menu and actually eating a meal. When a person stops analyzing reality and experiences their unity with it, they step out of a dark trap of information and into the light. In our modern era of endless data, the Mundaka Upanishad stands as a stark warning. True wisdom requires us to stop collecting facts and start transforming ourselves.